All right, UFC Vegas 89. This card actually was pretty solid. A lot of good fights and a lot of interesting things happened. So let's go through the biggest takeaways. Starting with Rose versus Ribas, and in this main event, there was a lot on the line for Rose, coming off arguably the worst fight of all time, and then the loss to Manon Fior. Is she going to look more acclimated to 125? Is she going to look like Prime Rose or anything near that? And then a huge factor is Trevor Whitman not being in her corner again. After the fiasco that was the Carla Esparza fight, it would make sense if there was some friction between Pat Barry and Trevor Whitman. But in terms of a solid answer as to why he hasn't been in her corner and coaching her, we don't really know. Now, Rose said we'll get an answer to this after the fight, and we didn't get one. Then we get into the fight, and Rose didn't look bad. She was pretty smooth on the feet, was really accurate, landed some really good shots on Ribas. Then in the grappling department, she was able to control her, but didn't really land damaging shots or impactful shots on the ground. And if we look at Ribas, we know that she's kind of back and forth between flyweight and strawweight. She's not a pure flyweight. And with the striking fairly even, it was clear that Rose's control time is what put her over the edge against Amanda. But can she do that against the rest of the top 5 in the flyweight division? And I don't think so. And on top of that, in the stand-up, Rose did look a little slower. She even said it herself, and didn't really throw much combos. It was more so 1 or 2 at a time. So if we look at Rose's performance against Amanda and compare that not just to her former self, but also the current top 5 of the flyweight division, I wouldn't favor Rose in those matchups based on what I saw. Overall, she had a solid performance, got the job done, and all credit to her. But in terms of another title run, I just don't see it. To me, I just don't see this as a better version of Rose. Now, is it the weight? Is it the opponents? Is it where she's at mentally or even physically? Or is it the Trevor Whitman thing? I think the Trevor Whitman thing, I think a lot of people are going to, because it's like when you were with Trevor, of course, obviously the Carla Esparza fight was terrible, but how much did Pat Barry play into that? If he wasn't there and it was just Trevor Whitman, would you have changed your performance? At the end of the day, people are looking at Rose and seeing you in your best form was with Trevor Whitman. And since leaving him, you may have not gotten a lot worse, but you're definitely not looking better. That being said, I'm still looking forward to and interested in any potential matchups against the top 5 of the flyweight division. A fight that Rose mentioned could be next is the Macy Barber fight. Apparently there's some beef there. She's talked some trash, and matchup wise, I think that would be great for Rose next in that division. It's a fun matchup. It's interesting. And I think it's the right next step rather than the winner of Blanchfield versus Manon Fior. And granted, Rose did say that she felt and looked a lot better in training leading up to this fight than what we saw on Saturday night. But do I believe she's going to look like Prime Rose in her next fight and moving forward? I don't. Then we go to Williams versus Tafa, and this was a frustrating fight to watch because Tafa early on clips Williams, looks like he's about to finish the fight, but then throws a knee that then leads to him getting taken down and controlled. And that was pretty much the story of the fight. When Tafa was on the feet, his danger was present. But especially as the fight progressed, it was way too easy for Williams to take him down and just control him and have him there. And then even in the 3rd round, Tafa clips him again. You're like, okay, is he going to come back? Is he going to do it? And then right back to his butt. And it's like, oh my God. It's one of those fights where you know when the guy gets taken down, he's stuck there and nothing is going to happen. There was even a point where he was just like laying there, just resting, you know, so then he can come back up and then maybe get a knockout, but then he gets taken down right again, and that was that. Super disappointing, but luckily the fights before it really delivered. Then we go to Shabazian versus Dobson, and this was crazy. Edmen early on gets clipped multiple times, and I'm thinking, okay, it's over, it's a wrap. Dobson then stays patient while Edmen is wobbled. Edmen then gets the takedown, Dobson reverses it, then Dobson's landing bombs on Edmen. Then they get back up, and Edmen's throwing at Dobson and seems to clip him with like a forearm shot. Then Dobson's insanely rocked, and Edmen finishes the fight. I'm like, what the hell just happened? This was all in the 1st round. For Shabazian, it was a huge win because although he's young, he's had an up and down UFC career so far, but hopefully now is the time where this could start a big run for him. Obviously not the best look to get rocked like that early on, but man, he showed that dog. And honestly, him training with Sean Strickland definitely shows. Then we go to Talbott versus Saaiman, and this was a big matchup because it's 2 young and very skilled prospects going at each other. And the way they fought was completely opposite. Talbott, patient, walking forward, really sitting on his strikes. And then Saaiman, very active, quick, moving a lot, jumping into range. And that jumping into range really hurt Saaiman because Talbott was catching him each time he did that. And there was a big difference from when Saaiman was landing and Talbott was landing. And we saw that with that knee that hit Saaiman, and we thought the fight was going to be over. But the toughness of Saaiman was insane. There were some crazy bombs that Talbott was landing to the chin, to the body. He was everywhere landing on Saaiman, and he just wasn't going away. And the fight ending sequence was again Saaiman jumping into range quickly, Talbott clipping him, getting on top of him, then landing ground and pound. And I honestly think the ref made the right decision because if he didn't stop the fight, I don't think Saaiman was going to go away until he got slept. Like, he was just coming no matter what, no matter how much damage Saaiman took, he was not going to stop. As tough as Saaiman is, I wouldn't have wanted to see that, and the ref made the right call. And for Talbott, he is legit. Composed, strong, made easy work of Saaiman, who is no joke. He's legit too. So the fact that he did that to Saaiman, man, it's another up-and-coming bantamweight that is a problem. Then we go to Billy Q versus Zalal, and this was a huge fight for Zalal. He needed this win, and he fought like he needed this win. He lost his last 3 UFC fights, got out of the UFC, climbed all the way back, and this was his return. And man, did he deliver. Landing great combinations, head, body, everything. Making Billy Q miss a lot. Doing fantastic trips, getting ground control. And he just absolutely dominated and outclassed Billy Q, and a fantastic story for Zalal. If he keeps performing like this and improving, he can make a run. Then we go to Padilla versus Pajuelo, and again, 2 prospects going at it. And Padilla coming into this was showing personality. He was hype. He was excited. I loved his energy, and he performed just as well. Padilla used his reach perfectly, was picking him apart, drops him, gets the ground and pound, and then as they're coming up, just snatches the finish so smoothly. A great comeback win after a loss against another prospect. Great showing, and I can't wait to see him next. Honestly, he's a fun guy to watch. Then we go to Ramos versus Erosa. Another great comeback. Erosa gets clipped, and you think the fight could be over. They scramble, they get back up, and then Ramos goes for a takedown, gets caught in the guillotine, which he just got caught in the last fight he was in, and then loses. For Erosa, it was a huge win. He just became a father, so that daddy strength came in handy. And for Ramos, you're thinking, you just lost to a guillotine, and then you did it again. Ramos could have won that fight and just gave it away. Then we go to Errens versus Nguyen, and this was a must win for Errens. He's 0-2 in the UFC. You gotta get a win now. You don't want to go 0-3. And he performed again. Someone else performing like this could be their last fight, and he showed up. And not only did he win, he was winning in style. Like, he was landing big bombs. It was a bloody mess. It was a fight. And he was also kind of showboating a little bit too at the end of round 1. Not so much in the later rounds, but he was doing his thing. He was giving you a little bit of everything. Body shot, uppercut. And anytime the win started to get a little bit of momentum, Errens would come right back and land some bombs on him. Some great back and forth action. Fun fight to watch. Errens really put on a show. And kind of like the theme of today, when your back's against the wall, when you need a win, the guys that needed it got it. Then we go to the fight that arguably had the biggest story of the night, which is Lima versus Severino. This was supposed to be a really action-packed, intense fight between 2 really big prospects. And it was for the time that it lasted. We saw tons of grappling exchanges, submission attempts, and then on the feet, we've seen double elbows, insane strikes being landed, bombs being thrown. Then in the second, it's more high-paced action, but Lima's starting to kind of dwindle down a bit, while Severino's starting to gain more momentum, which is what made it so much more confusing as to why Severino bit Lima. Severino had control. Lima was the one that was looking like he was losing his cardio. Why would Severino bite his arm? He was on his way to win that second round, and then you have one more round to potentially win the fight. On your biggest fight, you get disqualified, cut from the biggest promotion, and now have to deal with the Nevada State Athletic Commission. And while Severino has to deal with that, Lima's getting a tattoo of the incident, cementing it forever. I can't believe Lima got that tattoo, because as funny as it is, you still have another man's teeth now imprinted in your arm. Like, it was a funny moment, but it's like, I don't know if I want that forever. It's crazy because it wasn't even like a little nibble. It was a top-bottom full imprint on Lima's bicep. It was funny because everyone was kind of like, okay, maybe like a warning, like it can't be that bad. And then it's like, oh no, it's bad. Like you're done. He had to have bit really hard and for a long time to make that mark. Like, I don't even bite that hard for food or in the bedroom. And it sucks because it was an awesome fight up until that moment. But all this being said, Severino's still young. He can take time off, get better, come back with another promotion. I'm sure the UFC will bring him back if he comes back and performs as good as he has been. Then we go to Muhammad Usman versus Parkins, another comeback fight. Parkins gets clipped bad early, but is able to stay composed in the fire. And although loses the first round, in that second round, he came back hard and picked apart Usman and clearly won that. Then the third round was very close. And this is where a lot of people are saying robbery. And I don't agree. I think Parkins ultimately was a better fighter, especially in the later parts of the fight. In that third round, I know it was close, but the better shots, the sharper fighter was Parkins, and that's why I give him the edge. For Parkins, I think he could have a really good future. He's very sharp on the feet, has grappling. He trains with Tom Aspinall. He has a good team. So I'm looking forward to see where Parkins goes from here. And that wraps up my biggest takeaways from UFC Vegas 89. Let me know what you guys think about all the controversy and things that went down and the comebacks and everything from this fight night and the Rose story. Like, where do you see Rose going from here? Where do you see her ceiling being in the flyweight division? Let me know what you guys think. Appreciate you guys as always. Peace out.